All right. So let's get into this a little bit. Do a little bit of Saturday Linux hanging out. We are all done with a lot of stuff. We did all the course, got that all finished. Show you guys some of that stuff because that is something that I think is good for anybody who wants to get into the industry to start working on. You know, go hop up in the Discord and go hop into one of our many courses or groups or studies, whatever people are working on. We got the sysadmin course today. That's got 145 people saying they're coming, but there's typically only about maybe 30 people there. And then the security engineering course, today's the last day of this because we're going to meet and we're going to finish up all of our anybody that wants to present and all that kind of stuff, talk about the recording, talk about the course, and then kind of go. Yeah, never fear. Yeah, so what I can show you about that kind of looks like this. Let me see if I have, might have it down here somewhere. So, yeah, sysctl is one of these things. So the question was, could I talk about sysctl a little bit? And yeah, so you have in your system, it's actually funny, we were looking at sysctl over here. If you are to get on any system, any Linux box that there is, there are a bunch of settings for how the kernel behaves, right? And they're typically called the sysctl settings. So the way you check them, and maybe we want to see how our system is going to deal with Martians. And we go, what the heck's a Martian? Well, Martians are packets that shouldn't exist in a network. They're packets that are source and destination that don't belong on that network. Give me 1 second, hold on. Had to go grab a couple water bottles from my fridge. So, yeah, so you use sysctl and you can see all these kernel parameters. In fact, if we want to see how many kernel parameters are available to us, we can go like this. There's 1,028 of these kernel parameters that we could maybe NL and then more. And we could go look at what there is. And this is how your system behaves, what your system's doing when it kernel dumps, right? So there's like grep-i, maybe dump, right? And then this is what's happening with if there's an out of memory dump, where does it put the information? There's just a bunch, there's so many things that you can get out of here. But what we tend to do is over here, this is like one of my STIG remediation ones. And this one comes from like maybe if I was hardening a box in some way, right? What I might do is, so there's two ways you can set them. You can set them at the command line. So I can actually go and find where this CryptoFips enabled is set, and I can set that live. But that's not really going to be set. Well, one, CryptoFips enable has to be turned on through a process, and there's all kinds of other things that get changed as well. But the system is going to see it turned on or off right there. What we tend to do is make files. So down in etc sysctl. So I'll show you here real quick. In etc sysctl.d, this is where maybe I had some IPv4 fix. I think I did this one time on stream. And I wanted to fix the way some of my IPv4 was filtering and being created. So these values should mirror what we actually see in the live running system, because this is how I put on. Then I also have this 98 remediate. And these are some other things I wanted to fix the way that the system works. Yeah, Zorgal, we've hit 4,000 and had some people leave, so that thing's going to keep triggering for a while until we get up to like 4,010 or something. We're gonna see that for a while. But what he's talking about, guys, by the way, is the Discord. So you can go hop into Discord anytime, hang out down there with other engineers, all that good stuff. Also, I got to see why my chat's not available on YouTube. So give me a second here. It's kind of weird. I can't get in there. Hopefully I didn't just lose YouTube. There it is. All right. I didn't have chat for a while. So if anybody's been talking to me on YouTube, I apologize. I couldn't even see your talk or your chats. All right. So anyways, this is a one that I use a lot to fix things. And these are all tied back. Every single one of these in here is tied back to a STIG standard. So if you guys have ever opened up your STIG viewer and went in there, you go in there. Yeah, never fear. I remember, man, I remember when there was like 50 of us sitting in that server. Well, I started the server, so I guess I remember when there's one of us sitting in there. But I started that for all the people that had come through my Linux group over the years at that time and wanted to come and hang out with us, even from different states and stuff. So yeah, our Discord, probably up until about 1,000 members, was mostly just people that we knew. I started finding people online probably when we were in the few hundreds. So yeah, I mean, and then now it's probably much more people from the internet and people that have just kind of hung out with us over time. And of those 4,000 members, I'd probably say about two to 300 of them are somewhat active, at least posting. Like I can see how many times people post each week or whatever, and that's kind of an interesting thing. Like I can see like, oh, you had four or 20 new chatters for the week, and then people that did a return chat like a day later or whatever. The X amount of people. They give you all those numbers from Discord, which is kind of cool. I think you have to have over like 1,000 people before they start showing you those numbers, but it's kind of cool. Yeah. Hitting 4,000 is good. My goal is to get us over 10,000. I think that would be a cool little goal to hit. We don't make any money off of Discord. We just do it for fun, right? We just hang out. It's a persistent place to hang out where, here, this is very one-sided, right? Like I respond to you guys as best I can, but some of you guys have seen when I get in the zone, I can't even focus on chat because I'm just focusing on whatever we're doing. Never Fear said, yeah, for the YouTube algorithm suggested one of your vids, and that's how I found your Discord. Yeah, a few years, probably a year ago, Never Fear, or Boris. I like calling you Boris, but probably about a year ago. It was May of last year, right at the end of April, early May. Something happened where, like, YouTube stuck my videos in everybody's face. And we had like 200,000 views on one video, and that really blew up the Discord a lot too, because we barely hit 1,000 people last April, and then by the end of May we were already like we almost doubled. So I kind of always wanted the growth to be kind of slow, so that we had, I don't know, like a core set of people that were always helping out and stuff, and you don't want to lose control of kind of the feel of the server, so. We don't want it to be all mod actions and kicking people out and shit. We want it to be people having a good time and learning Linux, right? So yeah, that's always the goal. For people keeping track, I finished the security engineering course last night. I did the big 2-hour recording on that. And then now we're just kind of chilling, right? We're just kind of hanging out a little bit, doing some Linux. And Boris was asking a little about sysctl. So the main things for me in when we talk about anything, it's like, what is the thing doing? Okay, systemctl is showing us kernel parameters that are configurable. They are configurable kernel parameters. We can set them now by just doing sysctl commands or just echoing values into the files. So if we were to cat etc sysctl.conf, sometimes they're down there, sometimes things are set over here, but you can change them live. You can change them. I think it's like proc sysctl or something. There's a way to set them live and all that kind of stuff. But what we tend to do, what you really want to do as an engineer, guys, like when we talk about this stuff, right? We want to know where things are set. We want to know what they're doing. We want to be able to read them and check them. Then we want to be able to set them persistently, right? That's very important as an engineer. It doesn't matter if I can set a thing right now on Rocky 19 and then somebody types in reboot and Rocky 19 reboots and then all my settings are changed back. That's not optimal, right? That's not the way we want things to work as engineers. We want things to be persistent through reboots, right? So knowing where to go put things, like down in etc sysctl.d, and then knowing the order that they read in, right? They read in alphabetical and numerical order as your Linux box sees it. Now, if you ever need to find out what that is, you can always, back on Werewolf now, right? So let's say Rocky, let's go to Rocky 18 real quick. And now in here, let's see, sysctl.d, they actually read in the same order that they're listed here, by the way. So now this 99 sysctl.conf is actually just a reference to the sysctl.conf file that's up above. So that's kind of interesting. But here's my remediate, and then there's that. And if I needed to make a file before this, I would make it like, right? And then I would see in reading in system order, that would be the first one that would be read. Whoops, 97. Wouldn't matter. These are containers. Nothing I delete in here would be permanent, right? But the point is, you need to understand where your permanence comes from in a system, right? That's a big part of being an engineer, because if I make a change on this system in my test, and then I push the change to all the other systems, does it stay persistent through reboots? Does it live with the system, as it were, right? As part of the system lifecycle. And as I was just mentioning, Rocky 19, which is coming back up right now as a stateless container, when he comes back up, he's not up yet. When that server comes back up in a few minutes, right? When that server comes back up and we get in, it is a server that has no memory of this place. It doesn't remember any abuse I gave it before. It doesn't remember any terrible things that have been done to it by other users. It has gone down and come back up as a clean server all over again, right? Now, not all servers do that, right? But my servers do that in the home lab. That's part of the way that we've built them. So, we started the other day carving out and changing the way that we wanted Werewolf to work. So our lab, I'm going to let that sit there for a second. If we come over here, var chroot cd to bin. In here, we go to Rocky 15. We already had that. And then we had in, I think it was chroot MC Hammer. Yeah, that was the name of it. We've modified this to only allow you to go to the first 10 Hammer servers, right? Which freed us up over here to be able to get rid of those extra Hammer servers. So you can only go up to 10, meaning 11 through 25 we could delete or repurpose for our own good, whatever things we wanted to do to these servers, right? And this was just like some cheap and dirty capacity planning we were doing in the home lab here, where I could take these servers and I could go do something else with them. We can repurpose them in Werewolf. And we were talking mainly about turning them into this thing called Hammer Block, right? Which is actually where the name Hammer originally came from in their name, was for the Hammer Block stuff. And so we can repurpose them. They're super easy to rebuild. We just put them into a new configuration in Werewolf, which we may have to build. We may have to give them, we can give them different names, all that kind of stuff. You know, if we went over here to Werewolf and we did Hammer, 11 or something. Here's all the information about the Hammer nodes. And you know what? That's fine. It doesn't look too bad. But because it's wrapping, it has to do multiple lines. If we were to make this just a little bigger, it would look a little more clean there. Anyways, yeah. But anyways, there's all this information that Werewolf knows about the node. Main things that matter to us is the hardware address right here. This hardware address is going to map back to whichever Hammer node we're on its networking, and it should be 16FB38886330F, right? And that's how it maps, and then we learn those dynamically, but once they're dynamically found, it's almost like a little falling block. It locks in there and it gets set. So now our Werewolf node knows what, Hammer 11 is. If I need to change the name of Hammer 11 right here, I can. I can change it here dynamically, or I can cd, actually I'll just vi etsy werewolf nodes.conf. By the way, you never change this file directly. Well, okay, you can change it directly, but if you're going to do that, you always want to and then I might do orig dot, and then I like to do date plus %f. And if any of you guys have ever seen that, so now we've got the werewolf nodes.conf and then the original for today before I started mucking around in there, right? So vi etsy werewolf nodes.conf, and then in here I can go down to like Hammer 11, right? And then now I can go in here and change the template of Hammer 11 in whatever way I needed. If I needed to change his name, I could change his name right here, but the template would still find that server. So if I wanted to change Hammer 11 and on to some other name of servers for us to do our testing, but I still wanted to use these same virtual machines with their same MAC addresses that are currently there, we could do that, right? Hammer 12 should be right here. A67E3D5. Yep. Yeah, so they all map. Everything's shoots and ladders, right? Everything maps back wherever it needs to go. I don't know if I finished up on sysctl, but that's basically the things you need to know about sysctl, and then you can go spend a lot of time if you're somebody that's wanting to mess with that. You can spend a lot of time in sysctl and see how the commands work, see where it's changing things. So you can go change things in procsys directly if you want to. But again, things that you change there don't change for real. They only change for this one instance. So they're kind of what we call ephemeral, right? Ephemeral, transient, non-persistent would be a good way to think of it, right? And then look, this is where we change things and where things are set and all that kind of stuff. And you can look at all kinds of different things. So yeah, there's a lot to look at how the kernel behaves in the running system, but this is where you would start with sysctl. So hopefully that at least gives you a place to start, because there was a question about it. We were here on the Discord, right? I'm always telling you guys about Discord because that's free. Looks like there's events going on down here. Something just happened with an event. Did one start? We have an event that starts in a few hours. Bash study group. It looks like they changed that to earlier. That's 10 a.m. I think that used to be 12 my time. But the nice thing about Discord, if you guys do Discord, is it'll show up in your time zone. So that's kind of a nice little thing there. All right. The question was said, do I run all Rocky servers off the main hardware device, or do you have a cluster of devices? Just ask Freddie. Yeah. So Wildfire, this is what I do, right? I have 4 physical machines sitting in the home lab. I'm going to show them to you because people made fun of me the other day when I posted them. They are quite dirty. I can't, I probably should go in there and blow them off one time with some dust, but, a duster. But I'm kind of lazy. Where was this? I did it only a few weeks ago. I could have swore I did it in home lab. Yeah. So we were moving my home lab. So here's like my new office. Like I moved my office over. So that's my wife's part. That's my part of the office, right? This is me watching what was I watching? Oh God, that was a terrible movie. Yeah. That was some zombie movie where he was like he woke up like a few weeks later and he had a cast on. It was super weird. These are my servers. They're quite dirty, but I'll clean them off one of these days. They sit in a little half rack in my old office, right? And there's 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's them. This one's not being used, and this one at the bottom is not being used. It's too old. But what I do is I carve them up. Each one of those is an XCP-NG host. So it's got an XCP-NG operating system on it. We can actually go see the versions of the OS if we wanted to. Down here. Version details. A little bit older version 8.2. And I think some of these are on a slightly different version, 8.0 and 8.0. Yeah, so I built the other ones on 8.2, so they're a little newer. I should probably move these other ones up. But then what I do is each of these has virtual guests inside of them. So a bunch of virtual machines inside of there, right? And there's 2 ways I deploy in my home lab, right? So when we build stuff in the enterprise, right? There's kind of 2 ways you can look at building stuff in the enterprise. Let me turn this off and go here. There are 2 general ways. Change that stroke style and then go here. So if we were to say like enterprise deployment, well, there's other types of enterprise deployments, but my enterprise deployments will be like this, right? There's 2 ways that I deploy in my home lab. We can have infrastructure, and they are persistent or stateful nodes, right? And then I have my werewolf cluster nodes, so werewolf cluster nodes, and they are ephemeral or stateless nodes. So My persistent stateful nodes get built via like a full build process ISO mount, right? So I use something like let's say I was going to deploy my AWX server here, and when he got built, I actually turned him on. He is a CentOS 7 box, so he's a bit dated. But over here, I actually dropped a CD in him as an ISO mount, so CentOS 7, and I built him by hand. That is slow. That is not a great process. When I was done, well, with any of these, then I turned them into templates that I can use. So I got like a base Rocky for Kubernetes that I hardened my Kubernetes. I have an Ubuntu 2204, and then I have different versions of things. I got the dungeon boxes that we used to run, the Rocky template. I have a bunch of templates that I've made that are like that, and then I can just personalize the server. But this is heavily by hand right here. This is like me going in and building a server by hand and taking 30 or 40 minutes to do it, and that's not super great. But the Rocky servers, they come from container images in Werewolf. So all of these other nodes, so that's how I built a lot of these. These are like my infrastructure nodes in a cluster. These nodes, the Rocky nodes, they are coming off of a container, and they can go down and up all day. Nobody cares. And they will always come back with the same system. So if I just took Rocky, let's go down here to like, let's go to one of the Hammer nodes that nobody's using for sure because it's out of the way. We'll go to Hammer 17, and we'll just reboot this box, right? I'm gonna reboot this machine without a care in the world for anything about him. And then I'm gonna come over here on Werewolf, and I'm gonna do tail-f on var log Werewolf, right? And I'm gonna grep-i for Hammer 17, right? So we're gonna watch Hammer 17 do his boot process off of a container image right now. This is like the heart of why Werewolf is so like useful in the industry. That node's booting up with no disk. He's going to go to DHCP and he's going to find himself. Look, he just queried. He got a DHCP address and he found out that he was Hammer 17 based on his MAC address in the network. He found out that he was supposed to be getting the Rocky 9 lab container. From there, he was able to download his image. That's a kernel right there. And also his initram FS. He's going to download his initram FS here. And that's going to be enough. The kernel is enough to start. And the initram FS is enough for the kernel to get the system going before it hands off to whatever my persistent disks are going to be in the system, right? In my system, they're all tempfs, so it's all running in memory. But we have external disks that are mountable, storage, right, that the systems can use. So, look, he downloaded his kernel and his initram FS image, and now he's going to boot. And then that will be what we call a stateless image, because anything that was on Hammer 17 is now gone. It's back to the original image again. So those are kind of like my two ways that I deploy things for my lab here. You're either an infrastructure node, persistent stateful, and I go through a full build process. And maybe, again, maybe I speed this up a little bit. That was no good. Maybe we speed this up with templates, right? Templates and deploy with Ansible. And I do that with Ansible. So this is all done, right? In Ansible, cd to root Ansible. Let's go to like Dungeon deploy. Is it Dungeon? Dungeon's one of the old ones. Bash. Yeah, Dungeon deploy is a good one. So here's the environment definition in Ansible, if anybody cares. This is YAML, right? And then the actual lab deployer is going to take all of these nodes in. When I used to deploy the red nodes like this, this is how, whoops, more, it would help if I could type. And this goes and it uses a very, just not even supported anymore, Zen server guest command to go and create the virtual machine from a template out on the system. And it makes a specific MAC address last value based on that environment file that we were just looking at, right? So there's the MAC, that last two in the MAC hexadecimal addresses right here at the end of the 48 bits, right? The last 8 bits right here. Boom. Anyways, all that to say, it can generate names and all that stuff, and a lot of this stuff is automated. Wildfire, right? Like I can push a button and just run stuff. Sometimes I gotta modify it a little bit. For the most part, that's all been automated. But I can speed that up. And then container images, these are nice because it's change a definition file. Change the definition file and reboot the server, and that'll update that system. So enterprise deployments tend to look like one of these two things for me professionally as well. So there you go. Ollie over on YouTube said, "Hi, what did I miss?" Probably a lot of stuff. I'm trying to show all the secrets of Linux here, right? No, I'm just kidding. But the main thing for you guys to remember is a lot of this stuff's very attainable for you. A lot of this stuff, I can guarantee you when people watch this, they're like, this stuff's easy. It is easy. You got to spend some time with it and learn it and know what it is. But yeah, could you guys do it? Absolutely. Just got to spend some time with it, right? So anyways, Wildfire, if you were going to build a set of servers out, there's a couple of things that I would tell you to do different than me. And I always give this disclaimer. I use XCP-ng because I've been using that for many years. For you guys that are building new stuff, I would tell you to use Proxmox. Proxmox is fast becoming the alternate to a very overpriced VMware and vCenter and all that stuff. So a lot of people are moving off of ESXi and going to Proxmox. So what does that mean? Why am I telling you that? Well, because as a professional Linux user, right, we're a professional Linux users group, our goal is to get you guys into doing this professionally if you want. And I'm going to tell you, you should use tools that professionals use. XCP-ng really isn't something that a lot of professionals use, right? Proxmox is. So all your time spent in Proxmox in your home lab, all you guys that have been playing with it and all the people down in Discord that play with it, you're doing stuff that you may end up doing soon in your career. So I think that's pretty valuable if you're trying to get in the industry, right? For me, I kind of know where I'm at in the industry, so it doesn't matter what I do out here. So it's almost like sometimes I'm doing not bad practice, just not useful practice stuff, but I always try to acknowledge it for you guys. Like, I'm doing stuff because Scott's lazy, and Scott's just doing, I'm like, that's the way it's always been. I'm just going to leave it that way. I know this isn't the best practice for the industry. Literally nobody's using XCP-ng. I'm the only guy I know that uses this in a home lab or elsewhere. But I want you guys to know that if the goal is to do Linux, I can get to Linux. That's the point, right? So anyways, I know that was a lot for your one question. You were just asking about running the stuff off of hardware. I have 4 physical boxes. They are carved down into about 70 different Linux machines doing different functions in my home lab. That's the short answer to your question. All right. But yeah, enterprise deployments for me, infrastructure type nodes, and then Werewolf cluster nodes. In the industry, infrastructure nodes sit outside of your big cluster, and then your compute nodes and your data flow nodes and those kind of things tend to be nodes that are inside the cluster, ephemeral or stateless or whatever, right? There's a bunch of different ways that we define those and look at those or whatever. So, all right. What else were we doing? So, yeah. So that was just, I was just trying to brain dump a little bit on you, but that's kind of what it looks like in the home lab as we do that kind of stuff. I tell people all the time, if you're trying to get into the field and you're wanting to be more DevOps, maybe you don't want to do Linux all the time. Not everybody wants to live in that left command line, right? Like I tell you guys, and you guys probably think I'm joking, but like I literally live all day when I'm working in a command line terminal like this. There's no functional thing I do for work that's not at a terminal, right? That being said, I think that there's some things nowadays, if you don't want to do that all the time, if you just want to be like DevOps or SRE and be like Linux adjacent, I tell you guys you should learn how YAML works, at least at a high level. YAML is all key value pairs or library, or I think they call them dictionaries technically, but it's all key value pairs. It's name, some value. So this is the tag or the key, and this is the value, right? And that's up and down the thing. JSON is also similar to that. It's like a semi-structured language, right? Or people call it JSON or JSON. My system down there is going to call it JASON, but it's JSON, right? JSON. There you go. Those are semi-structured language because they follow some kind of actual standard, but the values and key fields don't have to be there. It's not SQL where you have to like define a table beforehand, have all your cardinality set and all that kind of stuff, right? All that stuff I don't want to do. I tell you guys all the time I don't want to be a database guy. I just know enough database stuff to like work with my database engineers. All right. Looks like people are on a ad break or something, so I'll hang out and wait a minute until the ads are over. Or at least it says there was an ad break. Anybody here not on an ad break? I guess if somebody subscribed, they don't see ads, but the rest of you, I guess we'll wait. We'll wait a minute. I don't think YouTube gets the same ads, obviously. Yeah, YAML. Be careful of those spaces. Yeah, you'll learn to use linters with YAML, because if you don't use a linter already, for people that code, they probably use linters all the time. But for those of us that came up from like the systems engineering side of things, no, we're just used to, for lack of better term, raw dogging our code right in VI, right? And then we have a hard time finding stuff. So linters will help you, because linters will just yell at where a problem is. Let me see if I have it right here. I think I have. Where'd that go? Come on. Let's see if. No. I won't be able to get it in there. Let's go here. See if we have a command for this. This thing's going to go check all its metadata, pull all this information. That's taking a little longer than I expected, but that's fine. We're not super worried about it. Is anybody else kind of happy it's the Army's birthday? I got any other former Army people in here? It's also Flag Day, right? Flag Day and the Army birthday are both June 14th. The Army is 250 years old today. The U.S. Army, right, obviously. Some of you guys know I was an infantryman in the Army, so I did all that. Did all that, got all the prizes, all done. Yeah, so YAML lint comes from this, right? So if I wanted to get it, I would DNF install ruby gem -YAML lint, right? And that'll give me the command YAML lint. Yeah, we'll go ahead and install it. Remember, if I reboot this Rocky box, all this goes away anyways. So this is a stateless node. We can do whatever we want to it. It's one of the fun things about the lab boxes, right? We can do almost whatever we want to them. And then if I had something like this, let me just grab all this. Say this was my file. Let's go to temp, some file. Cape : WQ. And then now I could YAML lint. And it'll tell me. Oh, well. That's funny. Let's do YML because that's the. And it'll tell us, there's no problems with it. But as Schizophrenic was just saying, let's go mess with that file. Let's go like add a space here and like remove a space here and do that. And this thing's gonna blow up the screen with like, hey, I don't even know what you're trying to do, man. Like, that looks like shit. That's not really YAML. It'll tell you. Oh, and then also, for fun, I might say, let's really parse this as a YAML file. So we do 3 dashes at the top, and then we can try that. And it'll still say there's some kind of problem with the blocks, right? Because I've moved things around. So, and if I fix it. Now I'll see no problems. But there's like, sometimes there's a little hidden, like maybe you got a hidden space somewhere. This one will get us, right? We'll put like maybe something like that might show an error. No. Well, anyways, there's points. The point is you can find errors with YAML linter. There's also Ansible linter, which I don't see there either. Let's see if we can find Ansible lint in there. I think we have that. Yeah. So that's a Python 3 Ansible lint. And this one will help you out if you're struggling with your Ansible code. I might have that on this box. I don't have it on Dungeon Box, but we can use that to check our Ansible code as well, just to kind of sanity check us to make sure it's going to run, or well, to make sure it can be parsed, right? That's the first error. There's always 3 levels of error. In computer science, there's 3 definable errors that come up in systems, right? There's syntax problems, then there's runtime problems, and then there's logic problems, and they come in that order, right? Syntax problems break before you can execute something. Runtime problems break when you're running it and variables don't manifest or things don't connect or whatever. Runtime errors are, you know, a little more insidious. And then the worst type of errors, the ones that you spend the most time in your career trying to fix, are logic errors. Those are your errors in assumptions or tests, or, you know, outside bounds and upper control and lower control limits of what a process can do. And then you have all kinds of problems. So those are the 3 types of major errors that you run into in systems, right? Syntax errors, which immediately manifest. Runtime errors, which fail when systems try to go pull things or do things. And then the very last one is logic errors, which everything runs, but it's just not doing what you expect it to do, right? Or not doing things the way they should, right? That kind of stuff. So, yeah, anyways, so let me go fix this. Turn this off for a second. For people that are doing the Linux course this week, we are in the security course. We're in our final week, so we're just doing reviews. For people in the course for Linux admin, I believe we're in, did we do 11 last? I have to go look where we're at. I think we're in monitoring systems this week. I think we did 10 2 weeks ago, and then we took last week off because it was my birthday, so I didn't want to work on my birthday. And I think we're doing monitoring systems, and then we're going to get into engineering and system baselining coming up. So actually, let me go check where we're at. All right, come over here. That was my server, and then that's what we were talking about. Come down here, and yeah, we did 10 last week, so I got to do, in our discussions, I got to do unit 11 today for everybody. All right, also, what are people mentioning me about? Oh, bash session is canceled today. Okay, that's probably what I missed. The bash session is getting canceled for today. So people are still down there working on whatever. Okay. So what are we doing then? Hold on. So we got to think about what we're doing today. I was just hanging out today to hop on and show you guys stuff. I didn't really have heavy plan. Although I was going to show you guys some person has been trying to get into my system, and you say, how do you know it's a person? Well, bots are simple. Bots are always going to do exactly the right thing, but people are going to do weird stuff like this, which is just random letters and just messing around on their keyboard. So whoever this is from 195, 158, 16.5, is going to get themselves, and they're going to get themselves locked out forever, so I don't care that much. But the point is they're coming from this. Also, I think they were down here earlier messing around from maybe a different IP address. So we can track that. We can watch all that kind of stuff as well. Camel case is greater than YAML case. Yeah. Yeah, you'll find people that'll fight and die on those hills up and down Hayes. I'm not a coder, so it doesn't bug me that much. Like, I just happen to do code for certain things, but I'm not a professional software guy, so you won't find me getting in any of those arguments with people. I just thought it was funny that we were definitely getting weird attacks weird things happening on the system, but those people will get locked out, and then it'll be a moot point after that. But it's still a good idea to keep track of kind of what's going on in your environment and see systems and system values and stuff. So there's that. All right. Other than that, what are we doing? Let's go find what I was working on earlier. I was over here before I got distracted a little bit, and we were in Etsy Werewolf, and we were thinking about if we were going to change our nodes.conf file specifically around these hammer machines, right? Were we going to change their names? Were we going to change the behavior of those boxes? Were we going to deploy a new container image on them? We have, so on our werewolf node, we've got space down here, right? We got plenty of space in our root where all of our images are. All of our images run out of var lib werewolf. Now, I'm on an older version of werewolf, so this is where it is. In newer versions of werewolf, I think it's in user lib now. So it's user lib space, and we can go figure that out by deploying a new version of werewolf. We might update the werewolf server one of these days and see where it puts stuff. But down in here, we see that this is where all of our space is being used in our environment, right down here in var lib werewolf. The ch roots are the container images for those nodes that are coming up. I can go download new container images right now. In fact, we were talking about this the other day. The werewolf node images are right here. If we wanted to pick, right, we've got Alma Linux 8 and 9, which, okay, we found that Alma Linux is being supported, but most systems that I'm deploying for the government are Rocky 8 or 9, or there's still a fair amount of RHEL systems, but they're all under. We're doing werewolf everywhere. But I could do Debian if we wanted a Debian image, or we could do SUSE Linux, right? Or we could actually go and download. We could build a new version of Rocky 10 if we wanted to, which might be one of the next steps here, is get the Rocky 10 image as a container, and then turn it into a bootable werewolf image, right? That would be a fun little project, because they don't all have. They definitely don't have all the bootable components, so sometimes you got to add those in. So that might be a little bit of work we do to get a working Rocky 10 image for us to start messing with as well, right, in the lab. All right. So, things I need to do, but I'm starting to feel too lazy to do, are over here in our dungeon. Actually, no. In here. All of these ch roots, when you log in, everything is happening in, let's just cat Etsy SSH. Everything's happening down here where users are getting jailed into those different jails, right? And what I'm kind of thinking of doing is deploying from the jump box here a process that goes out and just checks the availability of all of these systems that are in the back end. So all of these nodes, checks their availability, and then keeps track of how available they are to then dynamically put them into one Bastion user. So the way this would work then, I could just make a generic root, ch root, and give it a generic type of, well, one, I got to figure out a name I want to give it. So maybe it'll just be Prolug. Yeah, that could be fun, huh? Just do Prolug. Just make the ch root Prolug. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's do that real quick. So let's here we go. Do it like this. Copy -r ch root to Prolug ch root, right? And we'll do it that way so it's backwards from the other one. Well, that's fine. Yeah. So copy everything over there. And then in the Prolug ch root, we're going to make a user. So user add -m Prolug, right? So make user Prolug for our system, right? It's a Prolug system. And then we'll vi let's do this. Let's cd to prolog chroot, and then in bin. So anything that's past bastion.sh, we're going to get rid of. So bastion.sh is the only file. Hopefully that kind of makes sense what's happening there. And then bastion.sh is going to be, so in this case, this will be a dynamic file for this. And this is going to get probably rewritten over and over again. So what's here is going to be probably like a Jinja template, and it's going to get values put in here based on what comes out of an Ansible playbook. So we won't worry about that part yet, but what we'll know is we've still got all the pieces, we've got all that. We will vi, and we're going to y2yp, and we'll change this from streamer 1 to, man, what the hell, system froze up. This will be prolog and var prolog. All right, so now we've got that. That'll be set. Var prolog shroot. Okay. So now when that user comes in, he's going to get jailed down into this chroot. This chroot is going to have to be part of a larger process that's going to generate and drop something into his bin.sh. So then that'll allow him to connect over to these different places. Let me think. Are there all the keys that I need? Yeah, I think the same cluster key works for both. Hold on. Okay, good. So he's got a key for the cluster. But in this instance, we need to streamer 1 to prolog. There's all those. It's all owned by those. That'll be fine when it actually executes. Known host, cluster key. Oh, we gotta change one thing. Where are we at here? Go up one. No, that's fine. Chown prolog prolog, right? Yeah, everything in here should be owned by him. Okay, perfect. All right, so long story, right? What we did was we just made we made a chroot jail that mirrors the other chroot jails that we have in the environment. We already had those. Now we have their one for prolog. So the prolog user will not be either streamer or MC Hammer. That was the other limitation from before, was that we were always, you had to come in as streamer or you had to come in as MC Hammer, depending on which user you were. Well, I don't want to do that. I want my users to come in, the people in our prolog, and then just pick the servers that they want, right? And the servers that we're going to pick for them are going to be servers that are live and servers that are not used. So let's go back to, let's go to root, and then I have a whole bunch of stuff that I used to do out of here. So here's my old Linux admin stuff. This is where a lot of stuff kind of happens in the home lab in general. There's a lot of stuff in here that I used to do on stream when I would write a lot of Ansible code for you guys. So, and all this stuff, I mean, I guess that's probably lost to time, right? Because I mean, Twitch only kept things for like 15 days for back then. So you probably don't have any of that sitting around. And I wasn't streaming to YouTube back then. So some of this stuff is just probably lost to the annals of history. But, or the annals of time, I guess, in that case. But anyways, the point is there's a lot of stuff going on in here. We could just make our system checker right here, and then from here we could have it build and fix the bastion.sh script that the user is going to drop into. So let's do something real quick. Let's say pass real quick, just so you guys can see what I'm doing, because some people are probably like, this guy's doing a lot of stuff, but is he really actually doing anything? Let's do a pass WD on Prolug, and we're going to give the Prolug user a password right now. Password will be something simple that I can remember. Just something for my home lab. Okay. Now, if I were to SSH as Prolug in, oh wait, by the way, we got a system. Got to restart SSHD to make sure that we take that new user and that new jail into the system. We're going to do SSH to Prolug at, and then we're going to be 127.0.0.1, right? So we're going to log into that user on our own system here. We don't have a key for him. We're not using a key. So I'm going to put in my password that I just made for him. And when I go in there, I'm going to be dropped into a jail. Something did not happen right there. Oh, okay. I know what the problem is. So let's exit out of there. Let's come back over here. In the system, let's see, d to var Prolug chroot. There's a few things that still have to happen. So in etc, we need to copy everything over. So there's actually a setup script that I have somewhere in this world. But since I don't know where it is, I'm just going to do this. Copy etc pass wd to here. And we're going to overwrite it, sure. And we'll copy etc hosts to here, sure. And then the other two, whoops. And then the other two files are already correct. Group, well, no, we got to do group as well. All right. Oh, whoops. Let's say yes. I'm not used to having to do that. Now let's bang SSH, come back in. And now this time, we should get a full shell. Now this will drop us into the Bastion shell, right? I think. Oh, no. No, it's still going to fail. Well, it's going to just drop us in a normal shell. Hold on. Let me go fix it. Yeah. It's still dropping us there. Hold on. So, VISC, pass WD, Shift G. To go to the bottom. Now let's do our SSH. Boom. Oh, I gotta put together a thing too for our Prolug. I gotta do some like security engineering stuff. Let's do this. All right, so now that's doing the thing that we expect it to do, which is pointing at that bastion.sh in the right location. If we wait 10 seconds, it'll kick us out, right? These are all behaviors that we expect. That's how our jail works. That's how our security in our system works, right? That's like we have hours and hours of stuff on building those jails if you guys want to do that. That's part of the security engineering course. It's all free, all that good stuff, right? Okay, so now if I've got that part working, right? Like this part is all buttoned up, right? I can come into the Bastion 01 as a user. In this case, we're coming in as this new user Prolug. And we're getting sent over to just Rocky 1 through 15 because that's what I stole from the other system. Then what I need to do is be able to dynamically. I want to fix. Let's look at this real quick. We have Streamer 1 and MC Hammer. Those are the users that can log into our system currently. Admins come in through Streamer 1. Security comes in through MC Hammer. They jump in, they get dropped into the right nodes. I'm basically writing something that's going over the top of that, and those are going away. You're not going to be MC Hammer or Streamer 1. What you're going to be is you're going to come in as a Prolog user, and you're just going to pick, do I want to go to the security labs, or do I want to go to the user lab? Let's call it user labs. Or we'll call it admin labs or security labs, right? And what you'll be given an option of is only one device. You won't even be given an option. This bin bastion is going to be having been created by a bash process. Well, cron is going to be calling Ansible, and Ansible is going to go and find the node that's not being used or hasn't been used. And then we're going to just basically give you access to that next one, and then we're going to reset that the next time for the next user, and they're going to get a different one. And so instead of what we're doing right now is we're just shooting wildly into the dark and hoping we don't step on each other. I'm going to enforce it over here. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah, I haven't written a single bit of Ansible code for it yet, right? But that's what that's what I'm setting up for with this new user that we just built. I do need to fix his password though. I don't want his password to be what it is. We'll make that longer. That's fine. That's something that's what we call a orthogonal problem, right? Or a orthogonal issue. It's not related to what we're doing right now. We just have to keep it in the back of our head, right? Like if you're arguing with somebody and they keep bringing up some other point, you're like, that's orthogonal to. I hear engineers use it all the time. It's kind of funny. But I mean, it's the correct usage, but it's super funny. That's an orthogonal issue, you know. Like, let's focus on what we're doing, and that is true. That's how things are supposed to be. Yeah. So I need to go write a check, and then I need to write the YAML that deploys the Jinja, and the Jinja will just keep writing that as a new file each time, and then the user will get whatever they get basically. I think that'll be a good thing. So now I just got to plan this part out. I just got to write this part out, which I don't know if I have energy for on a Saturday morning. I might just want to sit here. I also told you guys it is the Army's birthday today. So 250 years of service to the nation. Some people don't know, but if you don't know, I'll tell you, the Army and the U.S. Navy are both older than the country itself, because their birthdays are before they were actually founded before the 4th of July. So the Army and the Navy are both older than the country. And Flag Day came later, but it also happened to fall on June 14th as well. So it's kind of fun. Okay. So by the way, once we do this, the other thing about making this more efficient is then we don't have to. We can shrink down the labs. If hardly anybody's using the Linux labs, the admin labs, well, why don't we only have three boxes for that? And then those 3 boxes can be the ones that people use. And if we ever run the course again and we need to expand it out, we can expand it out, but we don't need to use all that capacity right now. Basically, I'm blowing a lot of capacity to just have the ability for a bunch of people to log in, but there's not really a bunch of people right now doing the Linux course. The Linux admin course always falls off near the end. We're doing it for the second time, and we're down to probably only about 5 people still doing it. So, you know, it's hard. There's a lot of work to it. So I'm not surprised that it's not finished often. It's a lot of work, right? And I think it's something to be proud of. If you do it all, you're like, oh shoot, man, this really feels like I was doing admin work, right? This really feels like I was getting into this stuff. So, okay, so let's formulate how we want to do this here then. We got all that stuff right for now. That user's fine. Make sure we're back to root. We are. I figured we were because of our prompt, but we should check it anyways. Give me a second. Let's go and look at our deployment then. How are we going to do this? We got our daily lab check every night. Oh, we turned that all off. That's kind of funny. I have that running somewhere else. I must have that running on the Werewolf server or something. Um, let's look at. Yeah, thank you, Hayes, for that. Hayes, are you still doing a lot of audio stuff? Are you still working on that? I haven't seen Sid for a while. I need to go check on Sid. But I know Hayes is real into that stuff. All right, so how are we gonna do this? This tends to be, I think I have even a, yeah, this is a Git repo to my internal Git, GitLab or whatever I have internal. Actually, what is that? Hold on, I haven't used that in a while. I think he's off. Yeah, my GitLab box is actually turned off. I should probably turn him back on so I can store this up there, right? Took you 90 minutes this morning to get 3 takes in, fixing the video, render, and upload. Nice, 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 nice. Yeah, Hayes, you should drop that in the, I don't know if you've dropped that in Discord before, but you can definitely let us know. If you got a good YouTube channel, people can go check your music out in. That'd be cool. All right, so I got to think about what we're doing here, and probably let's go to roles here, and this role is going to be probably the best way to do this will be to just call it something like well, I mean, it's best to call things what they are, right? So probably like prolog underscore bastion or bastion deploy. So yeah, let's just go ahead and do that. So we're gonna say Ansible Galaxy init prolog bastion and maybe deploy. That's fine. So we're gonna do an Ansible Galaxy init, and the reason we do that isn't because I care in any way, guys, about the I don't care in any way about Ansible Galaxy or any of that stuff. But what I like about this is this right here. Here's prolog. And now in here, if I do a ls-l, I have all of these files that were created for me right now. All these directories, all these things that I can then use to go write my tasks and things that I want to do and want to work on, right? But the main thing is it's prolog bastion deploy. So let's go up one. Go up one more. And in here, let's take something like any one of these. Let's just copy like promtail even to prolog bastion deploy.yaml, right? vir prolog bastion deploy. And the role, the only role that this is going to run on is going to be boom, prolog bastion deploy. And I don't need my special host file. Guys, some of you have seen how I do this, where I set these. I'm going to set this to localhost. This is always just going to run on the localhost. That's a perfectly fine thing. And then now I have cat prolog bastion deploy. Now I have a working playbook right here that I can get ready to use to deploy this inheritable role that has no tasks in it. But I should be able right now to say Ansible playbook, right? I shouldn't have to give anything else because everything else is defined in the file. Prolog bastion deploy, and this should just do no tasks and finish. That's what this place should do. Oh gosh, I hate all that. But it's gathering facts true against my localhost, sure, whatever. I don't care about any of that. We gotta get rid of Calsay. I gotta turn that crap off. Okay. So the playbook ran, but there's no tasks in it, right? I mean, that makes sense, guys, right? Like I just inherited one role and I've put nothing in the role yet, so like it makes sense. Not a bunch of music so much as staring an ocean of music waves. That's fine, Hayes. That's good. You know, people like that stuff. People like that stuff when they're studying too. For some reason, I can go without. I don't need music while I study or do other things. I actually turn music on stream, just to have something for people to listen to. But for me, I'm like a madman. I just can work in absolute silence. I've always been able to do that. Even when I was younger and I was a runner, I could run without headphones in, and people are like, "You're insane, dude." And I'm like, "I don't know, man. I can stand being alone with myself, I guess." Some people can't. Some people fucking flip out when they're by themselves without music or something. But yeah. So Hayes, that's cool. That's cool that you've got some stuff. But yeah, if you want to share it, that's definitely good. We'll get some people listening to it. Um, I'm a big fan of listening to stuff for relaxation. But again, I'm a madman. I don't really necessarily need it. All right, so we have this playbook now that we could run, and we can go start checking things from this playbook if we want to, right? We can go check nodes that we expect to exist. We can go run all that kind of stuff. I don't need music because I got music playing in my head. Fair, right? So this system is, let's go look at how we want to then run this against our nodes. So there's a couple things that we can do. A couple things that we might want to do for this. Let's say that we do want to give Ansible. Let's go look at. Sorry, I'm trying to think. Etsy Ansible hosts. This is an older Ansible that I have. So let's go see if we have down here. We have all the Rocky nodes, and we have all the Hammer nodes. But we're gonna parse this down because we don't expect all of these to exist. In fact, we're gonna cut off Rocky at 10, and then we're gonna cut off Hammer at 10 as well. And I think, you know what? I'm gonna be a little more dramatic even. I'm gonna cut these down to 5. Actually, hold on. I need to do this a little bit different way. I don't want to modify what's there. Let's do a couple of different ones. And by the way, guys, I have this in here like this to show you guys. We were talking about the inventories. I realized I could do Rocky 1 to 19 like this, right? Obviously, I realized that if I have Hammer like this, right? But I did this to show you guys different ways to do the inventory when I originally did this. I'm going to add a couple. I'm going to say Rocky Bastion. And then I'm going to say Hammer Bastion. Right? And Rocky Bastion is going to be Rocky 1 to 5. And then this will be Hammer. Okay. I want those. And I'm going to grab these and I'm going to take them. I'm going to do something weird. But you guys got to understand. I don't have the memory I used to when I was younger. So I'm going to go throw these in a notepad. And you say, why, Scott? Because later I'm going to be looking for them. And I just want to be able to pop them up over here out of the side. I know. Trust me. I'm super... my memory's not where it used to be, so I can't remember what I do sometimes. That's weird, but it is what it is, getting old, I guess. So let's go, am I still in there? Yeah. Okay, so I'm still in here, and let's VI our prologue. Here's our prologue Bastion deployer. And we're gonna add a couple of values to this on our local host. We're gonna say Rocky, ooh, you know what? I think underscores aren't good, but we'll see. Rocky underscore Bastion and then Hammer underscore Bastion, and that should work. Let's bang Ansible, right? And it'll run our last Ansible command, and we'll just see, do we have access to systems? So we don't have access to the systems. We knew that actually from some of our other commands. So when we run this, we might need all dungeons and labs. Do I have a... This one doesn't run. I have the key. And... where do you use the key? Private key. There it is. There's private key. Alright, so... ls-l root.sh. Yeah, there's cluster key. All right, so Ansible playbook -k, right? -k shouldn't be just private key. And then our private key is going to be root.sh cluster key. That should work. So now this will log into those boxes, no problem, as a root user, right? Anyway, so all I want to do is just check them, right? So we're just seeing if we could hit them all. Perfect. So there's a couple of things that we need to do on those boxes to check things, right? There's a couple of things that we're going to also, technically, we don't need localhost as part of the, localhost will be assumed, so we can take it out of there. But also, let me think, localhost doesn't need, we could pull that out of the list. Pull him out of the list for now, because we're gonna need him when we set the value at the end. So now in those roles, we're gonna go start making some stuff that is going to kind of affect the overall. Oh, wonderful. We got this bot in Discord, and people keep leaving and joining, and as people join and we hit 4,000, it tells them that they're the 4,000th member, but people are leaving and triggering it. So it's kind of, we don't have error correction in the bot to fix that. So hopefully we get to like well over 4,000 people, so that doesn't keep happening. But it is what it is, right? I mean, it's not that big of a deal. It's just an alert. I think it's an alert to everybody too, but we'll figure it out. We've got that, so let's go in there. In here, we've got templates, and the template we're going to want is, let's go capture our template real quick. So let's go to var, what is it, C prologue, C true bin, and we'll copy bastion.sh over to this guy, right? Bastion.j2, right? He'll be a J2 for now. And then we'll VI our bastion.j2 in here, right? He's going to get written as a bastion.sh, but, yeah, bastion.sh. But in here, we want to generate the selections of things that people are doing. Oh, excuse me, by, we want to generate where you can go as a user a little more effectively than this. This is just you're picking something, and then it's just sending you to one of these nodes or whatever. So really, I just want people to be making decisions like this. You're really going. Yeah. And then this would be you are being sent to like a. This right here will be you are being sent to admin. You are being sent to a I don't know, something like that. Security engineering core server, an admin core server. Right, and then what would happen here is you would get the name. We'll dynamically assign the name after we check them in the Ansible playbook, and then this will be right here. Will be a loop over each of the users that were nodes that were tested, right? So we'll put those in, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, so this is a change 10. Oh, so 1 to 2. 1. Admin course, security engineering course, or 3 should be exit. And then you've got all this to put your input, and then that. So then now all we've got to do is modify these guys. Yeah. Read input. Yep. Read that, and then case in input. There you go. All right, yeah. So that'll be that, and then we're going to be modifying right in here with our Jinja. So Jinja can deploy normal blocks of code, guys, if you don't use it. But then you can also dynamically create certain parts of it. So we're going to create certain parts of it, like right here, with the value of the variables that happen inside of the Ansible playbook, right? So Ansible is going to do some things. It's going to check some stuff on the servers, and then nodes that have the values that we expect are going to be put right here, and then it's just going to send you over to that server, and then it's just going to rewrite this every time with just the servers that are good, right? And this will then there will be some logic in here where it'll pick from the good servers, right? So it's not just going to be sending you to the server, it's also going to be making some decisions here around what server it's going to send you to, right? Which will just be, that'll just be some bash stuff that I got to write. And then yeah, that should be, I think all in all that should be pretty straightforward. I guess I could, alternatively, I could just have the playbook drop the names of servers in this directory and then have this read from that list and build this inside of the... So the point is, I could either make this a Jinja template that does it on the run, or the Jinja template could just drop a simple file, and then the file could be read by the bash on the fly. Like the bash could just go pick up the file and read it and then generate these automatically in there. So I don't know, there's, I mean, more than one way to do it, right? There's always more than one way to do it when you're dealing with text strings in some way. So, all right, so admin course, security engineering course, that's all there. Let's go start to check our tasks. So if we look in our main.yaml, we need to figure out what we want to do with this system, right? So we want to do, what checks do we want to do? We should check probably if any other users on the system, right? So check for right? We probably want to check for well, obviously availability of the system, but that gets checked as you try to connect, so that's fine. Check for users on the system. Check for that's well, I guess that's probably really the main thing. Are there any users on the system, right? So we can do a shell for that, right? Do a shell command if we want. And oh, the shell command can be right here. And we can really just do W or who will tell us some information. Let's go look at who, right? Oh, whoops. Oh, two more up. All right, let's run that. Let's just see what the system sees back real quick. Oh, and we got to register the variable too. Just for fun. All right. Right, so now we're gonna, that's probably a little fast for people that aren't doing a lot of Ansible, but I have now added in a debug so we can see what users are there. We're gonna see what we have available for the Jinja template. It's gonna dump a lot, but it's okay. We just wanna see what the values are. Turncode's good. We only see the one user on each of the boxes, right? We see how many lines we have. We only have the one user. Return code is good, so if any return code other than good, we would not want to do it. This is fine. We only see one standard output line. I wonder if there's a good way. There may even be, Ansible may even have another way to do this. So we might want to look at the modules to see, is there a module that I don't know about? Guys, there's literally thousands of modules. I don't know them all, right? I'm just using like bash over the top with a way that I do know how to do this. And then what we would do is we would be looking for standard output lines to have more than one line, right? If there's one line, that's fine because that's you logged in. But if there's a second line, we don't want to use that box, right? So we could probably count that up. We could probably we could make it analogous to one in the actual command. So watch this. We could go here, who, right? Let's see what this looks like, right? So this will just give us a word count -L, and then this will run the this will just show us one, right? One, if as long as there's only one user. And then in our Jinja template, we could just test for ever seeing more than one. And as long as there's only ever one, we're good. So this could be a check. Let's look. Yeah. We see the value 1 now. So as long as standard out is equal to 1, and we might have to pass it because it's a string here. So when we do the Jinja temp check, we might have to make sure that it's an integer, right? So we'll do a filter to make sure it's an integer, and that's yeah, that'll be fine. So we would only take, so Rocky, is it only hitting Rocky, or it is hitting Hammer servers too as well? Yeah, so Rocky servers and Hammer servers that only have one user would be the only ones that we would then drop into their respective files or into their the check of the system, right? Yeah, that'll work. So I also telling you guys that I have terrible memory. I will grab this because I want to know the variable that I used, and this is all JSON output, so I can use any of these values I want in Jinja later, calling them as it'll be Ansible, and then in square brackets host name, which I'll show you guys how to do that, and then users check dot standard out is greater than 1. If it's greater than 1, meaning it's 2 or something else, don't put it in there, right? Or actually, I guess we'll just say as long as that equals 1, because you're always going to see 1. Yeah, then we'll put the name in there. Okay. That'll be, it's good enough for government work, right? And then, let's see. And then we got to figure out how we're going to pick those when the user actually gets in there. So with that, I'm going to steal something from myself that I wrote the other day. So I might get over here now. So be stream. I need a specific thing I was doing in here. I don't need it. I thought I had done something here that apparently I did not. Maybe Colchis did it. I don't remember. We were doing like a little mess around with all these. I might come back to that. All right, so what were we doing? We were working on getting the Bastion to properly see the nodes that were available as the user comes into the system, and then leaving only systems available to log into that are from the list of available nodes that are actually only one user. Yeah. I think that. So let's think about this. Root streams, code links, admin. So we have debugged that part, done that part to its conclusion. Write out the bastion.sh for prolog jail. And this is going to be a template command. And the source is going to be the name of that template. And that template is in templates here. And since it's in templates here, we can just call it directly by name, right? So source should be bastion.j2. Oops. And then where we're gonna put it for now, just for testing, dest will be, let's just put it in temp bastion .sh just for now. This will be our, testing bastion.sh. That's where we're gonna put it for now. And then let's cd back to where we were, vi the, oh, did we go? Yeah. So now we're going to come in here and we're going to drop in a loop that does, actually, hold on. How do we want to do this? If you chose the admin course, then we're going to do some stuff here around getting you into the right server. We're going to do some logic here around getting you in there based on those files. Let's so he gets getting into the digital man traps. Yeah. Well, all we're doing is picking a good server for our users. And I guess there's a lot of ways to do this. I even thought, guys, because I even thought to just publish this to an API and then just have Ansible pull it off of an API, right? Like that would also do it. But either way, I still have to write it out to this Jinja template. I still have to write it out to this bastion.sh because that's what shell has to interact with. That's what SSH has to interact with. So let's go. Oh, I moved away from my monitor. Or I moved away from my mic a little bit. I was sitting back and thinking. So how are we going to do this part? So let me think about this real quick. So we're going to go. If we're doing this as the Jinja template, we could just write the server there. Or we can put all the servers that are available right here. Say not a pro grade microphone. Well, I mean, it's a Blue Yeti. It's pretty good. It's same type I use for teaching. So it's a pretty solid microphone. I just leaned away from it. But let's go with, I'm trying to think of how I want to do this, because we're going to have a list of, well, we're going to have in the Jinja template, we're going to, right here, we're going to grab out a list of them. And we can either put each individual one in here and then just choose one. But then we're back to the same randomness as before, but I guess it'll only be ones that are available. So that could be fine. And that's also got to be by hammer or by yeah, I might have to think about this a little bit. But I mean, right here is where we want to put it. and then we're gonna do it, yeah, one way or the other. So, let's think about it. This is one I gotta think about this a little bit. Like down in the weeds, the user check will be putting the users in here. And also, technically, I need to do this by host group too, because we're going to get both the Hammer and the Rocky servers out. Think how we want to do this. We could either maybe the easiest way to do this is just put it into a file next to it and then pull it out. But I should be able to just generate it here and then loop over and pick one. Yeah, that shouldn't be too bad, I guess. I just gotta think how to do that. First, just so I don't forget, these need to be Hammer servers. So this will be Hammer 1. Right, I mean, just for now. This will also be Prolog. I might have to go fix those keys too. Those keys might not be there just yet. What else? Oh no, those are there for this user, so that'll be fine. Okay, but now I got to figure out how we're gonna set these values right here, and knowing which servers are the active servers, that's not a problem, right? Testing the servers, we've already done that. Almost wonder, well, it'll be fine. I was thinking if I'm overcomplicating this, if we could just do the checks here and just check against the servers that are up and then get in the one that's right. That's fine. That's fine. We should be good. We still have the data here that we need. So let's go with what are we doing? So this is a Jinja template that's being pushed right here, right? Meaning that all of these things can be modified, and we can send out, you know, whatever pieces of the information we want. So I have over here as an example, then let's go look for an example that I have. These are how I tend to do these, right? We look through whatever's there, and then we post out only the hosts that are available if something. So we're going to use some variation of this, although we're not going to do all this template nice stuff around it. We're just going to loop over some set of hosts, right? So let's do, we're going to also move this stuff over here just so I have it, because I'm not going to be on that screen. Wonderful. We've locked up our terminal. Wonderful. Well, Server's not responding. There we go. Jeez. That was wonderful. All right. So right here, you're still going to be being sent to a server, right? But the server is going to be a very specific value based on, let me think how we're going to do this. Let's start by generating it, and then we'll go look at how that works. Hey, hey Monkey Man, how's it going? And Manny the driver, hopefully this stuff's useful to you. Let's run a, we'll do this. We're going to steal this from ourselves. And we don't need the host vars host uptime. Now it's going to be this value up here, which is users check. If users check is defined, and then we're going to check, there's going to be other things we check. We're going to check, even before that, in this case, we'll look for Rocky in host vars host, and that should be host name. We can actually just look in host, and then we'll just say host right there. Yep. And then we can come down here and let's then close out all of these. So we got to have an endif, an endif, and an end4 right here. Now, just for now, we're going to do this, and this should print out only the Rocky servers on this line, and it'll print however many lines of these that we need. Now, we're going to put a bigger block in here, but that's fine. This is just for the initial test, right? Jeez. Ansible. Damn it. There we go. I just want to see if it blows up all over the place or if it actually deploys all the names of those nodes, which it could, or it could fail. But either way, we'll find out. And it's going to write it to temp whatever, right? That's where it's putting it. Oh, I also didn't do, well, I didn't do one other part too. Because it's obviously not going to be able to do it for all the other nodes, so I have to fix, yeah, so CD back to there, VI, CD, tasks. The main.yaml, this has to be run once, yes, and delegate to localhost. There we go. We could also use the absolute path so we don't have to move around, but it doesn't really matter that much so we move around, right? Like as long as we know we're 3 directories down and then we jump up and then we're 3 directories back down to run that. Now this isn't going to be the exact file I want, but it's a start. Oh, hold on. Where did it fail? If Rocky and host vars host user check is it's our fatal error. End if 4 host vars host if Rocky in host. Oh, well, that'll work. Need to close that, right? That's a template error. There we go. We're doing the same Ansible play every time, so that's why I can bang Ansible. It'll just read the most recent history file, or the most recent history command that starts with Ansible and run it. It's normally not super safe to do that. Let's cat temp, what do we call that? Testing Bastion. Now, I don't expect this file to look like what I want, but I do expect it to have all the values in there. Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because those are all the ones. Yeah, so that, now we're going to have to do a little bit of logic to pick one of those. But the point is now we have all of those, right? So we can generate all of those and then send the users to any one of those. Let's see. Yeah, the user can just randomly be sent to one of those. That's not a big deal. That should actually be pretty easy to do. So I have that over here. Because I wrote it. So we'll just pick a random one and we'll just go to one of them. We'll go random mod 5, yep, and then plus 15. So yeah, we were picking those. So we'll go +1 and then 5. Yep. So we'll take this. Take this from ourselves. I never remember that kind of stuff. Let's go back into our Bastion template. And now that's going to generate all of those for us, right? But the way that we'll pick between them will be to, yeah, we'll grab one of the lines. Let me think. No, maybe that's not the best way to do that because it'll only be however many are there. So we don't, again, we don't really want to be random because we already have randomness in it. We want to pick the one that's empty, right? And we're only showing ones that are empty, which is good. That's how we want to start. I haven't done that part yet, though. I have to add that. If hostvar's host user check is defined, and then I need to add another, hold on. There's another one here. And there's one more check here, which is if it's defined and pass that to an int as a filter is equal to 1, right? Make sure that works. Make sure this doesn't break all over the place anyways. Man, I am tired. It's only morning too and I'm super tired. Does it break? Didn't break. Did it work what we wanted? Didn't find any of them anymore. I gotta go look up something I don't remember how to do. So, gotta go look how to do converting a string to an integer, right? Yeah, pass it through int, right? Huh. Hold on. Yeah, it's a default. You can. I should be able to force that from that to be an int. What did I do wrong there? Oh, I'm stupid. Dot standard out. So here we check to make sure it's defined because otherwise, trust me, it'll blow up all over the place. And then we need to, and then we were checking to see if that was equal to 1, but that can't be equal to 1. The standard output, which is right here, is equal to 1 after we pass it to an integer. Yeah, that's right. That's good. That was my bad. bang Ansible. There we go. All right. Now, this should generate our things like we want. Now, that should be there are, oh, hold on. Door! Sorry, I had to yell for the wife. She might not always hear the door. She's in there baking a bunch of cookies downstairs for a party. So she's getting ready to take stuff over. And she doesn't always hear the front door. Anyways, all right. But I can hear it from upstairs. Are you going to the door? My wife tells me she's going, and then the people ring the doorbell. Oh, yeah. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Pass to int. Isn't that host vars host dot standard out filter equal to 1? Well, I don't need the. I don't know. Maybe I don't need this. It's not string, right? Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but we'll figure it out. I think it's how we're treating the data. Yeah, because we're just looking at the number one, right? Yeah. There we go. There's some guys from Saturday Night Live, like back in like the 80s and 90s, that used to always go, yeah, that's a ticket. There it is. Now they're all there. Okay, so the point is, we could now let's go fix the rest of it, because now we need to steal all this from ourselves, and we could do this a few ways. We could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? And we could say y9, y, and then come down here, and we can hit P right here, right? Boom, and then we get rid of this, and now we can modify this to root dot if the name has hammer in the host, right? Because the hammer servers are different than the other ones. Then we do that, and then now we'll test that. We're back to cooking a little bit. Yeah, quick rundown. Yeah, I like that heated pool and bar. What we're doing is we're playing. Well, so we're playing with something live in the home lab, right? In my professional Linux users group home lab, I give a bunch of people access to the servers, people that are doing our courses, and that normally looks like this. You come in, you're some user out on the internet. You come in as either Streamer1 or MC Hammer, and then you hit our external prolug.asus.com, and that drops you into. You come through the home router, you hit the pbastion01 server, and you get dropped into one of these environments. Now, some of you guys know that I literally monitor everything, so this stuff is all being logged over here. Like if people started trying to log in right now, we would find you here, and we would snicker at your IP address, right? All that kind of stuff. But for people that are actually attempting the course and running through it, they can get in. There's passwords and stuff to get in, and you get dropped. Then currently, you get to choose Rocky 1 through 15, or MC Hammer. You get to pick the MC Hammer user, Hammer 1 through, I think it's 24 right now that I give you guys, and then 25 is my box. And these are just these werewolf nodes that sit out there, and you can reboot them and all that kind of stuff. Well, so this is what's happening now in our home lab. Like literally anybody that's in our Discord, anybody that knows anything about the system can get in right now on Streamer1 or MC Hammer. Like if you messaged me in Discord and said, hey Scott, could I get the username and password? I'd give it to you, and then you would be able to get in and hop into these boxes. You have root, you are an admin, and you can do any of these like Linux course things that we have that are all free for you to practice security or practice Linux admin stuff. So that's a quick rundown. What I'm doing now is I'm streamlining it, because I'm very inefficient as it is. Like there's nobody right now. If we check, there's nobody on any of these servers. So I have 19 servers sitting there doing nothing, just waiting. And I have 24 servers over here, 25 servers over here waiting, doing nothing, right? So what I'm doing is then I'm lining this up. I'm trying to make this more lean so that instead of me leaving all this extra capacity, we have just kind of the, we're being a lot more like streamlined down to what users, like what the users need, right? So let me go here, let me bang cat, And then now, okay, so we are now putting in either the Rocky or the Hammer servers that are the healthy servers that you could be sent over to, and then you're getting kicked over to there. Okay, so now what I really want to do with this then is I need to, I don't know in Jinja if there's like a break. So I'm kind of curious, like does Jinja support break? Right? Like a break function. And I know this probably isn't the best, but it's like this is let's see. How can I break a loop? I'm curious, is there a way to break this? If I have more than one condition, I don't want that. Get out of here. I want the loop once the condition's been met. You can't use break. You use filter instead for users if user not hidden. Like Python, it's not possible to break or continue a loop. You can, however, filter insert sequence during iteration, which allows you to skip items. The following example skips all users which are hidden. Ah, that would be interesting if I could just do first. You only need the first element. So I would always want the first element. So let's try that. Guys, I don't know everything about Jinja. I'm never gonna try to present myself as some expert on that topic, right? But I'm a guy who can figure stuff out typically. So let's go look at our. Well, sometimes I can figure stuff out, like where I just was. Can I, for Ansible play host all, if Rocky in host, then do that if host first host. So we're checking for all of these. I wonder if I can filter after. No. Hold on. I need at least one in there, so I can't go doing what this is saying. Nope, different one. Let's filter data. That's a different thing. I just closed it down too, didn't I? Damn it. Filters. Jinja to break loop. So they say there's no real break, but oh, hold on. Is there now in here a break? So people say no, Jinja 2 does not have break. So we know that. Does anybody have an example of how they might... Oh, come on, damn it. Sure, you can have all the fucking cookies. So we have all these things. So I can't filter the first in the list because this is where I make the decision. Where does my panel say there's almost 1,000 of us? Should say 4,000. Hold on, let me look. Where does it say 4,000? You're welcome to Prolog. In here? In Twitch? I don't know. Well, let's see where I have almost. Must have something, I don't know where it is. Oh, hold on. Are you talking like in my official, like on the front page thing? Yeah, I have to go find that. I'd have to go look at that. Post it in the Discord channel. Okay. Yeah, that might be one of those ones I like made in GIMP or something, and that's like not. Yeah. This is super old. That I made that in GIMP with like I need to remake all those. Yeah, like it doesn't even have the fucking doesn't even have the feed on that. It's terrible. Yeah, I could probably update that. So this is my pressing issue. I just want to generate the first one. I can actually just cheat the whole thing. I just realized how I could cheat all this. Doesn't even matter. That's cheating, but it will always only log you into the top one. It's dumb. But that's still how I'm going to do it, because then I'm just cheating. That's cheating, but I don't care. I don't care at this point. Like cheating is still fine engineering for me. Let's rerun this. Let's make sure it works, and then we're gonna cheat. It'll only allow you to do the one connection no matter what, and it'll always be the top one. So that's fine. All right. So now let's go test it. Right. So cat. We'll bang cat. That'll be the most recent one. Yeah, so it'll always only be the most recent one that's available with no users on it. All right, that's cheating, but we don't care. So let's go fix our CD into tasks. And let's go fix where we're putting it. Now we're not putting it in temp anymore. Now we're going to actually put it on the bastion, which is var prolog ch root bin bastion .sh. Yep. And we'll make it mode will be 064 0755, so people can read it and write it. Okay. Oops. Let's run it one more time. And then now this will write it to the right place, and then it'll now we can test the user. So sometimes you guys earlier might have seen me jumping into the user. Now the user is actually going to have an updated bastion shell. So this user that only I can get in right now is now going to, if we cat out var ch root prolog, var prolog bin bastion. There it is with all those. You're being sent to one of those. And then now I'm going to, let's just do this. Control Shift R and then prolog. Oh. Control Shift R, prolog. What? Control Shift R. SSH. My reverse search? Oh. I don't know. I I don't know why my reverse search isn't working. So we'll figure that out another time, I guess. But let's bang SSH. Maybe because I had caps on. That was probably my fault. And then let's use this user. And we should see this. And I should hit admin. And it'll send me over to admin course. Couldn't open dev. Oh, okay. Well, those are other problems. But that comes from... Yeah, cease mod. Let's go in. All right. One admin course, send over the admin course. Next node. If I tried to... Okay, so now those aren't updating dynamically yet. I need to run those to update those dynamically. But now if I put a user on, right? I come over here. SSH Rocky 1, right? Come back over here. Now there should be a user on Rocky 1. So if we bang it, root streams code CLS. So in here, and we bang Ansible. This will rerun, and now that first one shouldn't be in there anymore. So the first Rocky 1 should no longer show up because now there's 2 users in there, so he should fail. We're doing a positive test, if you will, to verify that now he's no longer in that bastion. So now we can cd back into var prolog bin bash prolog chroot bin. And 2, yeah, see how Rocky 2 is the one that's up? And then now if I log in, right, as that user, and then admin course, it should send me to 2. Rocky 2, there we are. All right, got it going. So now I'm going to start working, all the people, I'm going to start socializing to everybody in the groups. You no longer go in through admin, streamer1, or MC Hammer. Now you go in as Prolug, Professional Linux Users Group. Maybe I'll make that like Prolug user or something, or Prolug student, or maybe, I don't know, something. And then you now pick your admin course or your security engineering course. And the reason this is so important is now I can set this playbook, right? So let's go make the whole let's make this work now forever, because we have not productionalized this yet, guys. We've only touched, like I try to tell you guys, like there's the proof of concept or minimum viable product. I have a working minimum viable product for what I want to do now. Users can pass into my system only as admin or security course from one generalized login. Now you might say, well, Scott, you're using a password. Shouldn't you use this? Guys, now I can take this and take public keys from users, and I can do all these other things tied to this one account that's now split out to admin or security engineering as a defined backend that's no longer split between Streamer1 or MC Hammer. If it doesn't make a lot of sense, just know that this makes this better. It makes it more streamlined, makes it more efficient and correct, and mostly I can get rid of all these other nodes now because people aren't using them. So there's another part to this that I got to clean up, which makes it reboot, but that's a different discussion. Exit that, boom, back out. So let's do this part. We've got to make this now a little more productionalized, or at least active in our cluster now. Let's do this. So let's SSH to excuse me, I'm not SSHing anywhere. I'm already on the box. Let's cron tab -L and say this is an old example of a playbook, and that looks like a decent playbook for kind of what I want. But now let's go to, how was I running this? I was over in Linux admin. I was history Oops. I'll just do Ansible. And this is how I was running this playbook, right? But I was doing it by a relative path. I need this full path, right? So I need all of this, and I'm constantly showing you guys that I don't have the memory to do this. I have to go keep my notes. So I'm going to put my notes over here, and then I'm going to crontab-E, and I'm going to shift G, and then I'm going to hit O, and I want it to run every minute of every day of every day of the month. Oh, sorry, this is every minute of every hour of every day of the month of every month of the year of every day of the week. We are going to run bin Ansible playbook, and then we're going to do this full path here, right? Actually, we're going to do this, which is the key that we're using with the full path. And then we're going to give the full path to the playbook, which is here, because cron doesn't know it, right? Well, neither did our system. We had to keep being in the right directory or whatever because I was using relative paths. We've got to give absolute paths, right? Does that make sense, guys? We got to be absolute if we're going the full, you know, if this thing has no knowledge of this place, cron doesn't know, we have to be explicit about everything. And if you say, well, why do you have to be explicit about bin Ansible playbook? You're probably right. I probably don't need that. If I wanted to check that, I would cat etc crontab, and I would say, okay, etc crontab. Oh, we do have bin defined in the general path, but you can also set paths in here if you ever need to. But crontab-L now will show me that we have every minute of every hour of every day that is going to run that playbook, and that playbook is properly going to go generate this file. If I cat var prolog bash bin bastion.sh, this is going to be updated with whatever nodes are available at any given time. And just for fun, if you guys were like, well, Scott, can you prove that? Let's do this real quick. Let's just say watch. We're going to use the watch command because watch will just let us see it like here. And now I'm going to go over and I'm going to set a user on Hammer 4 and Rocky 5. So I'm going to go to Rocky 5 and Hammer 4. And we're just going to sit here and hang out and talk for a little bit. And what we should see is Hammer 4 and Rocky 5 should disappear from these lists sometime here in the next few seconds. Now it's going to go every 2 seconds or whatever. Smitty number 1 said, what do you use to set up Kubernetes on-prem? In my home lab, I use kubeadm to stand up Kubernetes. In the labs for people, for my users and stuff that want to learn Kubernetes, I just make them stand up K3s because K3s will do enough. RWX use Kubespray. Do you have opinions on it? Look, first off, anything Rob's doing is probably great. Like, I think Rob's great, and I think that guy probably knows Kubernetes better than most of us. Guys, look, you guys see one of them, Rocky 5 and Hammer 4, disappeared because they're not in the list anymore. Real quick, I'm gonna go leave Hammer 4, and then now we should see Hammer 4 pop back up in the next minute. But yeah, if Rob's using Kubespray, that's probably one of the best things you can do. I said if Rob's, not Frobs. So guys, when I was younger, I had a speech impediment. I probably still have. There's probably certain things you guys could find where I have a certain bit of a speech impediment, especially around my S's and my R's. And I try to, as a professional speaker, you know, especially lecturer with colleges and such, I try to do that. I like that minimum viable prototype. Yeah, I had a good engineer years ago, a good software engineer, tell me, Scott, I only need to make it work once. Once I can make it work once, I mean, he goes, I can do anything from there. I can go figure out how to automate it. I can go give it to a team, and they can figure out how to automate it. But he said, yeah, he's like, I only need to make something. I only need to see it work one time. Once I see that, I can go build everything else from it. So yeah, minimum viable prototype, or sometimes we'll call it like a proof of concept, because we have to prove. Sometimes we have to prove to other engineers that something will work, right? And then once we get that, then we start working. So that's fit for use when we talk about like systems engineering. Fit for use is the idea, does it check all the boxes? is the thing I'm doing providing a way for users to log into my system, provided they have all the other components? And the answer to that is yes. Now, the other one is, does it work all the times it should? Is it working logically as a system operates? I hope that's also yes, right? So there's the minimum viable prototype is, I like that a lot. That's a good way to think of it, because it's not productionalized yet. This is working. We're going to work this up to be productionalized, and I'm going to start to socialize this to some of the engineers and have the guys in the group start using it to test. But yeah, this should stop collisions. Now, there's an assumption here that people aren't logging in within the same minute. If people are logging in within the same minute, there wouldn't be time to remove them, and two people could still be on the same node. But I think in the course of like a week of people doing engineering projects, if somebody's sitting on a box and it goes away, that's fine. That's fine. It can go away for quite some time. There's two other things I need to build into this. Timeouts on user connection. So maybe you time out after 4 hours. I think that would be fair. And then one other thing is I want the box to reboot if a user has used it. So the system always reboots and goes back to a clean image. And you go, but what about during that time? Well, during that time, it'll be gone, because the only things that show up here are things that are, oh, Hammer 4 is back. The only things that show up here are things that were available by the system. Like if I go, watch, I'm going to go reboot a couple nodes real quick. I'm going to reboot Rocky 5, and then I'm going to reboot Rocky 4. And then I'm going to reboot, whoops, sudo dash I, whoops. We'll go, what? We'll go into Rocky 3 and we'll reboot him, right? So we're just rebooting some of the boxes. They will stop being here. 5, 4, and 3 are going to go away until they come back and are available again. So this also is checking this method that we're using via Ansible and then Jinja templates is also going to find nodes that are not available. So within the next minute, Rocky 3 and 4 is no longer going to be available for these users. They're always going to log into the first one, because God, this is like the cheapest, dirtiest trick I've ever fucking thought to do, but it works. God, that's dirty though. But it's just going to pick the next one. This is legitimately hacky shit right here. This is not good. But 3 and 4 are going to go away right here. So, yeah. Yeah, there they go. See, they're gone. But in about 5 minutes, when the nodes come back up, they'll be back. So I think this is going to be awesome. And then nobody logging in needs to know. They're just going to press 1 for admin course and get sent to whichever one's available. If we don't have any capacity, well, I mean, I guess I could have it. We could have it message no capacity and then send it out, and that would just be a line that made it at the bottom. There's no capacity, and then it just goes to nothing. That's actually really funny. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I might do that. Just put a no capacity available. Yeah. Let's do that. Well, let's let this test finish. We're testing the system right now. I'm sitting here jaw jacking, but you guys ever heard that? We always joke around about that at the gym. Like, this was when we were in our 20s. You know, me and one of my buddies would always be powerlifting and be in the gym just in there. And then this was one guy from like New York that would always come in during the day. And we were like early morning guys, so we'd be in like pretty early. And there's this one guy that would come in and he'd always talk to everybody. And then one day he came over and he never talked to us. And he goes, "Hey, I never talked to you guys because you guys always seem like pretty intense. You guys are always like kind of serious about it." And we're like, "Yeah, well, no, that's true. Like, we are kind of intense about this. We were really into lifting. My buddy was a pro fighter, right? So then we did jiu-jitsu together. So we would go lift weights, and he was very serious about his weightlifting, and I just happened to like to lift weights, so that was the thing. But anyways, where I'm going with that is this guy, we'd always joke around about how he was the jaw jackinator, and he would get the best workout of his jaw every day at the gym. Like, you're working your jaw instead of working your muscles, and that was one of our jokes that we used to always do. That's fucking hilarious. All right, guys, I'm gonna finish this right here. We're gonna have this done, and we're gonna call this good. This is now working. We're gonna test this and burn this in the lab a little bit, but we're gonna make one last little change to it before we're done, and I'll show you guys that here as soon as these two nodes come back from this test. We're gonna do that last little part, and then we'll call this good for the morning as far as that goes. And then we can decide if we want to keep hanging out and working on stuff or not. But I really do want to give you guys let's say the best experience as far as like if you're using these labs, if you're trying to learn Linux, like I don't want the lab to be the thing that trips you up. That's man, that's the worst, right? Like I used to tell you guys, like if I have a bunch of college students and I'm the first thing I do is like we're all going to build Linux. That's what we're going to be doing for the next few hours because people are going to struggle. People get on what we call the struggle bus, right? They mess one thing up and it just compounds, and all of a sudden you got a non-working system, and we got to just start over from scratch, right? It's almost never the lab that's busted. But hold on, if it is the lab that's busted, so if the lab that you're trying to get into is actually busted and you can't do like your disk management or whatever in lab 3, that's a big one for a lot of these guys. That's terrible. You're going to get disheartened and you're going to be like, oh, I'm the only one that couldn't do this. I'm too stupid to do this. And then you're going to go do something else. And it's like, no, I think you guys can all do this. It's just the lab's got to be in the right spot for you, right? So that's what we're doing. Look, 4 and 5 are back. So our nodes are back. Let's do the politest thing I can think of right here. Let's go to this is the politest way I can think to do this. Let's go to here, and we'll get to the bottom here. And after all this is done, we're just going to say echo no capacity for the labs found. Try back again later. Right? And then exit 0. So Y2Y, and then come down here and go down to this one and hit P right here, and it'll say no capacity for the, and we're going to make it a little nicer for the, we'll say the admin labs found or the security. And then now what I probably need to do right here as well is I need to send this as a message. Tommy, you're going to take the LPI soon? Nice. I think we have a few people on our Discord that have taken that. I've been told that's a deceptively hard test. If you're doing that, is that the LPI LPIC? Is that what that one is? I might not know all. I don't know all the Linux certs that are out there. Actually, fun fact, I've just been doing Linux forever. I don't have any Linux certifications. I have all kinds of other certifications in the industry, cloud and security and other stuff, but I actually never bothered because I've just always done Linux. So let's hit escape, :WQ. Let's go back to, we'll watch a cat of that to make sure that this writes out the things that we expect, and then let's kind of go from there. Yeah, but Tommy, hopefully if you're still here and the ad hasn't started yet, hopefully, I mean, if you find anything here that's useful, number one thing I would say, if that's, I don't think that LPI test is a hands-on one. I think it's all questions. But I was going to say, if you did need hands-on, Killer Code is a huge boon for most people to get in there. I think people get a lot of hands-on stuff. Yeah. I think, Tommy, the people that I know that, if I'm thinking of the same test you're talking about, yeah, look, down at the bottom here, you get the no capacity found. So that's what we wanted. No capacity for the admin labs found. Try back later. So now if we start using these users instead of the other users, and probably next time we run the course, I'll change it all to that. And then now I can have smaller capacity for Rocky and Hammer servers, and then we can start to move the labs off into other things for people, and I think that'll be a good thing. There we go. So this was a thing that we had talked about doing for a while. I had planned this for a while, but I hadn't sat down and actually done it, and it just took me around talking with you guys probably about 2 hours. But you guys were useful too. I was using you guys as kind of my sounding board for what my thoughts were on this. So there we go. So we have a way to, this is like a cheap way to pick a server that's not used and then make sure that we have capacity for our users to get into whatever. So, all right, fair enough. I mean, it's pretty quick and dirty, but it does the job. So that's acceptable to me in that context. So what are we doing next then? Do we have anything? I'm gonna take a little bit of a break. I feel kind of bad that Ranger Cam's not up. We don't have Ranger Cam up because he is. Oh, we got a party going tonight, so we've taken Ranger Cam down in favor of all the other stuff. But let me move this down here, and then yeah, there's a Discord you guys can hang out in. There's all kinds of other things. Let me mention that for people that need it. You guys are welcome to hang out in the Discord. I want to take a break real quick. So, Hourglass. Maybe it gives me time to think about the next part of what we want to work on. Hourglass break and walk around a bit. 10 minutes. All right. Feel free to take a break if you guys want it. I'm going to take a little break and walk around. You guys can check out the lab while we're sitting there. See all the people trying to get in. See all the capacity of our current systems in use and all that good stuff. All right, I'll be back. All right. So, I know we've been working on stuff all morning, but if anybody's got any questions, anybody wants to know anything about the course, you know, we got Discord. It's the best place to go hang out. Hopefully we get enough people in here that it doesn't keep just triggering 4,000s, but as everybody keeps coming and going. Yeah. Now, as long as we get up higher, it won't keep triggering that. But there's a lot of stuff going on. People talking about stuff. People, oh yeah, Hayes posted his stuff. So good. So you can go play in there and watch Hayes if you guys want. Talking about, you know, getting into. He does a lot with. I got to make sure I say this right. Not synth, but he does a lot with systems. Let's just say that. And then people are arguing down in crypto, as they're always, people are always arguing down there. So we won't worry about that too much. Where'd that go? Is that off topic? Home lab. I gotta go find where Hayes put it. Hayes, I don't know where it is. There's people waving. You can wave. Discord's great, guys. I like Discord. I think it's a good place for us to meet and talk, and it can be more back and forth-ish, you know? It's not just like one way like this where I'm just sitting here doing whatever I'm doing. We did get all this stuff done, so that's good. And then we'll keep working. So we're going to keep building out the home lab stuff. And I'm going to start shifting some of the lab stuff over to probably my plan for the next course. The next course is going to be the automation course. And then I kind of had one. This was kind of a thing that some of the guys seemed to want to have a little traction on. It seems to me like, and this has been my notice, I've noticed this in my career about Linux engineers. It seems to me like a lot of people just don't know how to act. What I mean by that is, like, you know, maybe you grew up in your mom's basement or something, and you're like, you don't know how to act like in Slack, or you don't know how to do that in an office setting. And, you know, a few of us, we've had Toastmasters and we've had other stuff like that, but there's been some people have kind of talked about maybe running kind of some just I don't know how to put it, except maybe some like Actorate courses, like a course on how to behave in the office. Like, you can't just sit in your Slack channel all the time in voice with your feet up on the desk doing whatever the hell you want. You have to, like, leave space for the people who are using it and have checked out that room, and what, you know, and you can't, and you should be speaking in threads. You shouldn't just be continuing conversations down in Slack, because it makes a big mess, right? It makes a big mess of the channel. So it's good to, you know these kind of etiquette things, which, I mean, some people pick them up on the fly, but some people struggle. They get on the struggle bus and they just can't learn it. So I thought about doing that a little bit, just because the guys were asking me about it. Mainly, I just want to teach people how to do Linux, but there's all these other components of, like, getting into the industry that I think are also maybe good for people to learn, that kind of stuff. So, what else? What else? What else do we got, guys? All right. Feel free to finish up your break. I'm just kind of looking around at things, figuring out what we should work on. Figuring out where the best use of our time is here. All right. So I can't close down the capacity yet to those boxes, because people are still using the other logins, right? People are still using the primary logins that give them all accesses. So I'm not gonna close down those facilities yet. I'll be able to do that here in the next few weeks, probably as we start to get people trained up and switched over to the other user. Also, I could make a way for people to just drop their public key. There's actually a thing, I forget what it's called, but people use it where people can just basically check in their public keys and then they can use their private keys all they want to get in. You never give your private key to anybody, right? That's kind of standard. Anything you know about private keys, keep them private, right? That's true all the way around. You ever see a thing from like one of these big infotainment groups that's like, hey, and then they're posting it all over LinkedIn, and they're like, hey, this is where the server sends its private key to the client. That's not how it works. It's never how it works with a private key, right? That's wild. But anyways, let's okay, so let's figure out what we're doing next. We've got lab stuff set up. Move this over a little bit so it's out of the way. Next thing we could do is we keep talking about something from the other day. Although I kind of like putting these things in the same spot, so maybe maybe I hold off until I start another one of these. But we were looking at actual Linux sysadmin jobs, and we were talking about the skills that you need for that, right? Like how do we get the job? And then here was actual jobs on Dice, Unix Linux systems admin, and then we were going and looking through the things. But I mean, we can keep working on them. I mean, I don't mind working on these if people want to see this. If people are looking, I mean, I have to imagine we have a trade. There's some certain amount of people that are trying to get into the field, and then probably some people who are in the field just kind of hanging out, doing whatever. And yeah, and I do have a 12 o'clock meeting, so I have a couple hours until then. But I always meet with my college students on Saturdays that want to come and talk shop and that kind of stuff. But let me think here. We could do this. We could just do straight Linux stuff. We can also talk about, in the background here of this, I have my general troubleshooting. So if you guys want to go through some of my general troubleshooting stuff, I did hit some of these the other day. Some of these we were talking about in the just general getting into Linux thing, but we could talk through troubleshooting if you guys want. This is kind of a fun one. It's a little bright. I know it's a little bit of a flashbang, but got to deal with it. Some of the important concepts are you have to have these 5 troubleshooting, or these 7. There's normally 7, but you can also get away with 6, and I've also seen 8 here. So does this one have the other ones in it? Hold on. This one, yeah, this one shows the 6 and the 7. So 6 troubleshooting steps are identify a problem, establish a theory of probable cause. Sometimes identifying the problem is just finding all the symptoms you can find, right? You don't know what the problem is yet. But then you think about what is probably the most likely thing, and you start to make a list of that, right? Test your theories to determine if that's really the cause. Establish a plan of action to solve, and then verify that there's full functionality, document, and be done. There is a definitive start and a definitive end to this methodology, making it, that's one of the hallmarks of a good troubleshooting methodology, is there's a definitive place to start and a definitive place to end. You don't just wallow around forever. You move towards something working. If you establish a plan of action and solve the problem, but then you don't get full functionality, you got to come back and keep going through these steps until you're done. Now, in the next one, we're going to see 4 broken out. Establish a plan and then solve and implement are going to be separate. But that's, other than that, it's the same thing. Establish a plan, implement the solution, verify full functionality. These are the things that we kind of see here for this. All right, So we identify a problem and symptoms, establish a theory of probable cause. Test your theory, establish a plan for resolving the problem, implement the solution, and verify full functionality. Some people argue that 7 document findings, actions, and outcomes should be done throughout. That's true, but this is like a formal documentation at the end of how the process went. This is almost like a after action review, or some people call this a post mortem. But then I heard that like it offends dead people, so you can't say post mortem anymore. I don't know what to say, but I've always called these after action reviews. That's what they call them in the military. So we did a thing, but did we do it well? Was there area to improve? What went wrong? What, that kind of thing. Some managers will be like, they'll do the sandwich method. They'll tell you something good, then they'll tell you something bad, then they'll tell you something good. So there's like, I don't know, there's different ways to look at this, different ways for this to kind of work or whatever. So, all right, so that's troubleshooting methodology. This is the high level, and then we get down into, this is it visualized, right? Start, gather information, identify symptoms, question the obvious, follow the OSI model top to bottom, test your theory, establish a plan to resolve it, implement the solution, verify functionality, and document findings. And it works through something like this, right? Then this is one, I really like this one. This one's super easy to remember. You do not need to know all the troubleshooting methodologies that are out there. You need to know one of them well. One of them well enough to do from start to finish, or to talk about in an interview from start to finish. And reacting is super easy to remember. It's research, engage, adjust, configure, and take note. You almost can't go wrong with this as far as problem resolution and ongoing stability. The only downside to this one is this one was developed by Microsoft, and we don't like them. No, I'm just kidding. That's it. That is true. But this is an excellent methodology for engineering. So don't ever go, I would never use that methodology because it was from them. No, I mean, you can nod that it was from them, but then know that it's still a good thing, right? Research, internal documentation, internet websites, looking at the systems and comparing two systems. One system stopped working right, but both of them were working right yesterday, and they're in the same cluster. What changed? Did a high watermark get hit on a network? Did a bonded interface fail? Did a disk fail and capacity was dropped? I've seen clusters where, and it may be surprising to some of you, but the way that we do RAM inside of servers nowadays, RAM can fail and the server will keep running. You can have multiple DIMMs fail, and the only indication you get is a change of size of RAM. So that's actually one thing that we watch in the industry. We watch our big CPUs and our big compute nodes, and we make sure that memory is not changing. If we start out with 386 gigs on a box across all the servers, they all need to have that. And if they change in any way, that's probably indicative of a DIMM failure, right? And then we get it processed to change. But research doesn't have to be just looking at documentation. Research can be checking the system. And it says engage, ask for a problem description, ask clarifying questions. That's if you get a ticket, or if you're checking the system, you're what we call interrogating a system for information, right? You're really just using commands and checking things. Then you adjust. You change the settings, you reinstall hardware, you reinstall drivers. Adjusting is not something we just do like the Wild Wild West. We got to follow our change management procedures. So a lot of times that means putting in for a change request, getting all the approvers on board, which are the owners of the servers and the data, making sure that they understand the implications of this change. Has the change been tested? Who's doing the change? There's all these things that we need to do and document. But then we make our adjust. We configure, which is ensuring that standards are enforced, stopping people from doing that, or updating the standards if needed. If we didn't track that the high watermark was coming on a disk, and then the disk hit the high watermark and it crashed a RAID or something like that, then we need to understand that we need to have better monitoring. We need to go change some configuration to keep that from happening again. So that's what the configure part is. And then take note is that documentation at the end, right? The problem, the cause, the solutions, and the principles. The principles are the people that were involved, or the systems that were involved, right? That's what principles means. Okay. Stepping through the OSI model, this one's been very, very effective for me in my career. If I understand well where things are happening, I can go check and see where things are breaking. Interlaced with this is the ability to use tools, so I have to be able to ping, and I need to understand and interpret the output of ping. Ping is using ICMP echo requests and replies at layer 3. However, that also tells me everything about layer 2 and layer 1, because if ping does work, I know those work. If ping does not work, I have to go troubleshoot further down and step further and further down, maybe even having to go all the way to the data center and checking, is the server turned on, right? Maybe I have to go out of band management. So like the network layers down and I can't SSH to a box, I have to go another way into that server, right? Like we were mucking around with the Rocky servers earlier. If they didn't boot, I might have to go to I've connected into XCP-NG and I'm seeing a console to that server through this other server. This is not direct network connection to that server. You guys get that? And I can push a button. In the industry, that's IPMI, Internet Protocol Management Interface. Sometimes it's there's so many other things. It could be ILOM, ALOM, Integrated Lights Out Manager, Advanced Lights Out Manager, all that kind of stuff. Runamucker said, and those bums like me that just say, read my bash history, tell them to go to sleep, and stuff matters more that we imagine if you don't want to get to know the stuff midnight. Yeah, you definitely don't want to be troubleshooting this stuff midnight. You also got to teach your junior engineers this stuff, right? Let them watch over your shoulder when you're building stuff. Like, I know a lot of engineers that don't like people watching over their shoulder when they're doing this. In fact, I would say that's the hallmark of most engineers I know, is they do not want people around when they're building stuff because they don't want people to see that they don't. Look, engineering is a lot of hacking around it shit, guys. Very few engineers have every idea of everything they're doing all the time. I mean, there's probably like one or two of them, and they're like those guys like on the show Criminal Minds, where like he's just got this eidetic memory where he remembers everything ever, and you're like, okay, gosh, that's not a real person, right? Most of us have to hack around at stuff until we get it to work. That's a big part of being an engineer, right? Hacking around at stuff until we get to work, and then we only present the finished product. But I'm going to tell you, the more you let junior engineers watch, and the more you let junior engineers see the process, one, they're going to be more comfortable coming to you about things and seeing, like, I just let you guys watch me hack around in the lab to figure out how we were going to do that entry thing, and it all works now. It wasn't pretty when we were doing it. It's kind of embarrassing, but it all works, right? And it works the way that I want for now, and I'm going to make it better later. But I have a minimum viable product, or minimum viable prototype is also a good way of putting it, that now works. Give them water, screen light, and yeah. So there's all that. Looks like my phone's ringing. That's weird. Some kind of spam call. But if I expect transport layer security problems, I should be looking up in TLS, right? Transport layer. If I session and presentation, you're probably only going to see errors in if you're using TCP a lot. But you may see errors up there, but typically that's going to be higher than like a networking stack thing. So that's almost going to always be something dealt with, the application, and then the actual application layer. And then we joke around about the 8th layer of the OSI model. That's the users. The problem was at the 8th layer. Some of you guys know the PEBCAC problem, which is the problem exists between keyboard and chair. That's PEBCAK or PEBKAC. I've seen that both ways. But problem exists between keyboard and chair. Everybody knows that one. If you put that in a trouble ticket, you're probably going to get in trouble by a manager or something. But if you put in a picnic problem, most people don't know what the picnic problem is. That's problem in chair, not in computer. I'm a big fan of that one. All right. So anyways, OSI model, useful. This one is having a list of failures that are very common for, just broken things. So memory failure, insufficient processing capabilities. Maybe you're working in a data center. I know one of our guys just moved across country to like work in a data center for AWS, and he probably sees the same exact types of failures on cables and the same exact types of failures on hardware, and they have to move hardware in and out, and they're deploying new stuff, and these are the types of things that become common right here. And then you know what they are for your systems, and you start to figure out how to find them and look at them and that kind of stuff. Disk failure almost always exhibits itself to users as slowness of access to disks and that kind of stuff. And then there's different types of failure that you might know. This means you know the system well. This one here, you do not need to know that individual system well, but you do know systems well. So this is the one I always use this as an example. Symptoms, diagnosis, solution. This is like a doctor. If there's an ear, nose, and throat doctor, they've never met you before, but they have looked at a lot of ears, nose, and throats. In fact, I might tell you, that most humans have ears, noses, and throats. Not all of them have ears, not all of them have noses, but you pretty much have to have a throat. If you don't have a throat, you're probably not breathing very well. So my point in saying that is symptom diagnosis solution like this is somebody who is an expert in systems, but not necessarily this system. They understand how to look at symptoms, they understand how to diagnose the problem, and then they come up with solutions based on common things that could be wrong or things that they have experienced that are similar in other systems that are, built the same way, right? We all use IPv4, some of us use IPv6, but we use networking of some type. We connect into a network. Routes need to be there, gateways need to be there, DNS servers need to be there for resolution. There's all these things that are common to all systems, and knowing that and being good at that is going to make you a better engineer, all right? Now this last one, systems thinking, this requires you to have both of those skills. You have to be an expert in all systems generally, and you actually have to be an expert in this system as well. So systems thinking is thinking about all the pieces together. How do they connect? How is the data supposed to flow? What are the systems or devices between this device and the other thing that's trying to talk to? And how is that all working? Are there things there that function a certain way? What other devices are attempting to communicate? Like, are we overloading the system? Did we recently bump up workflow? This is the, we always talk about the fit for use versus fit for warranty. This is the fit for warranty question. Can it, like the server operated fine when there were 10 or less connections, but can it take 2,000 connections? Maybe the server can't do that. And it starts to send a bunch of errors, or it doesn't even respond for a while. And that's something to think about. Like, what's the load of the server relative to other things? This is big. What's changed in the environment within the system operates? More load, more users, other users. Like, if your system's if you're checking a system for being under extremely high load, but nobody noticed that it was one of 10 servers behind a load balancer and the other 9 servers have already fallen over, and this one's the only one taking the weight of the whole 10 nodes in the cluster, he's the only one left, but nobody noticed that he's the only one left, that would be a problem. Also, that would be a really, really tremendous amount of workload for one server to handle if you're used to using 10. But that's big. And then asking questions like, has the system been moved recently? Has there been a change of some type? This is always huge. These two questions, like, really... And by the way, physically moving a server doesn't always happen, but you know what's a big one that I've seen in my career is things moving between ESXi hosts. So ESXi hosts, you get vMotioned by DRM or whatever that tool is inside of vCenter that'll just move servers, and you get moved to a server that doesn't have the right network connections for you, and one of your VLANs is down, and now your server can't talk to backend storage. The server's running fine, but it's not doing backups on the backup VLAN. That's a thing I've actually seen in my career. And yeah, there's better checks nowadays, but maybe on some older version of ESXi that wasn't a check. And it would just, things would move and then they wouldn't work correctly anymore. They'd still be up, they'd still be pingable, but all of their back-end functionality or system functionality wouldn't always be there. So, all right, something to think about there. All right, so then we get into failure modes and effects analysis, and I've shown you guys this before. FMEA is a government or a military technique from back in the 50s, right? And it's systematic process to examine what could go wrong, what's the impact, what's the likelihood, what's our ability to detect and react. And we just went through this the other day, so I'm not going to go over all this, but this is an example that I actually used from work. There's you can watch a longer version of a video the other day on this if you want. And we get it down to the numbers. It's severity by probability by detection. You must use the numbers 1 to 10, 1 to 10, or 1 to 10, yielding potential numbers between 1, because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1, and 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 to the third, is 1,000, right? And that's not up for debate. That's not one of those internet questions where we're going to sit there and argue about it. That's just what it simply is. So you could have a risk priority number between 1 and 1,000, and then we could determine what is the highest risk in the organization based on our customer impact, the likelihood to occur, and then the ability to detect and react to it, right? And then that's it. That's that whole talk. So we kind of just ran through, some stuff around troubleshooting. We talked about that the other day here too. So if anybody was around for that, you guys ran into a lot of those same questions or whatever. So, all right. What else do we have? Let's get this out of the way. Other than that, We could do more sysadmin job. We are updating the book. I've got a whole bunch of updates for the book that I'm going to be putting in, and I'm going to be publishing the book again by the end of this month. That's one of my goals. I think I was going to try to get it before. Yeah, we're just going to get it by the end of June. That'll be good. So that'll be one of our plans. What else? Other than that, yeah, join the group. We've got a few meetings later today. We're going to be hanging out talking about Linux. We're going to be talking about configuration management and all that good stuff. What are we talking about? Hold on. I'll pull it up right here for you guys. Here's the actual things that we're talking about. Right here. Today we should be talking about monitoring systems and figuring that out. And then in the security engineering course, we're just going to be talking about the final project, what people did. Some people, we're probably just going to start people right away showing their projects off, so people can see what they did, and hopefully, like I want a lot of reflection. I want people to sit there and go, what did we do? Like, what did I really learn? What was the net effect of this? It wasn't just for me to make you a little drone that acts just like me and does the same system stuff as me. That would be. I wouldn't say that would be tragic. That just wouldn't be as good for you as maybe being able to think through this stuff on your own and get into this stuff. So, thanks for the follow, Kyber. Hopefully this stuff's useful to you. We are probably winding down here, but you're welcome to hop in the Discord if any of you guys want to go hang out and talk shop with those guys. Those events, by the way, if you're trying to figure out when they are, you come down in the Discord, you go to events. And I think this one got canceled for today, the Bash Study Group. But then also Linux Sysadmin course starts at 3. It may be different your time. That is about 5 hours from now. And this is about 7 hours from now for the security engineering course. And, we have a lot of people say they're coming, but then people don't make it. So, all right. Writer's Room is tomorrow, and that's people that are working on writing the course up. Security Engineering Project Intensive. This will probably be the last one because then we're all done with the course. And then the Security Engineering Study Group. This might be the last one of those. And then we have a bunch of our big annual conferences coming up. We will have hundreds of people for this. But there will be many people. It's only a few people that say they're signed up, but we'll get a lot by the time that goes. We had over a few hundred people last year, and we were only at 1,000 people in the server. So if we even got a few more people, it would still be much bigger. So that's kind of where all that is. And yeah, all in all, yeah, we're just gonna keep moving stuff forward, keep working on stuff. Let me think here if there's anything else. That's probably it. 3 hours is pretty all right for today. Plus, we're going to be talking later. So, here's what we'll do. We'll go to our little end of stream. You guys are welcome to hang out down there. You're welcome to talk with other engineers and all that kind of stuff. We don't have enough people for us to raid anywhere, so I'm not even going to bother with it. But I appreciate you guys all coming by, and I will see some of you guys later on today.